Wow, how are you there? Thank you very much for your support towards us as Ken Realtors. May God continue to keep blessing you always. Today we are back again and we want to enlighten and to teach you things to consider when buying land. Because most of us and most of the people, we buy land, but we don't really know what to consider when doing that. So I just want to talk about some few tips that you need, the very important tips that you need to consider when buying land. At least for us to be informed. Number one, you need to ask yourself, why am I buying this land? What is it for? And when you ask yourself that question, it comes now with another question hanging on it: the user of the land. Because, like, for example, in Kenya, we have lands which are categorized in different users. We have residential, we have agricultural, we have wildlife reserves, we have them which are categorized as future roads, we have riparian parks, we have a number of users. But the common users, most of the people know, they are agricultural, residential, industrial, such. And when you talk about user, you need to ask yourself, am I buying this land for my own home, or am I buying this land for an apartment building, or am I buying it for commercial purpose, for example, to do a garage, or for myself to do maybe a warehouse, which is industrial. So that should be number one factor that you need to consider. And once you know, I'm buying this land for a specific kind of a user that you want to use, for example, you want to build your own home, the second thing that you should ask yourself is, because when you come to us as land buying companies, as land selling companies, every other property, it has a price tag. For example, we are selling land in Kitengela and in Nanyuki. The land in Kitengela Paradise will cost you per 50 by 100, which is either eighth of an acre. It will cost you 1.35 million. And the same size of a plot in Nanyuki, which you're selling, which is Taji Gardens Nanyuki, it will cost you 250,000 Kenya shillings. You may ask yourself, why am I selling this land this? And most of the people, of course, you know, is because of the location. So a point to consider when buying land is the location, because you might want to buy land for your own consumption. For example, you want to build a house, but you find maybe you have bought without going to the place to see. It might not help you, and the seller will not reimburse back the money. So number one, after you understand why you want to buy the land, number two, you have to consider a place called location. Make sure you visit the location before making up your mind. And most of the companies, like now Ken Realtors, we do free site visit, because we want the client, we want the customer to be informed, just to know this project is located in a specific area. And once they see that, they are able to make informed decisions. And after you visit the site, number three, it comes with the valuation or the value of that place. You need to be, when you're buying land, don't just buy for the purpose of buying. Do a research. Just know, for example, if Ken Mark is selling land in Nanyuki for 250,000, like the price that you're selling Taji Gardens, ask yourself, which other companies are selling land within the area? You can, for example, go and see, we have another company which sells maybe 300,000 within the same area, 400,000, or even maybe 180. So you need to ask yourself, Why is that company selling this amount and that other company selling this X amount? Because mostly, whenever you go to a place and you find, for example, the major companies like maybe Kenmark and others, we are selling land at a specific cap. And when, for example, you can go the same place, you find another company selling so low, you need to ask yourself. Because when buying land, you need to caution yourself. When the deal is so good, you need to think twice. There are some documentation that you need to request from, and I'm going to mention them as I go down, because I just want to enlighten you what you need to look when you're buying land. Make sure you know the value, and it is good to engage a professional valuer to be able to tell you land in such a place, it should cost you maybe average from this price to this price, because that is why we have land valuer or valuation companies. Number 4, you need to meet the real owner selling the land, or the real company selling the land. Just utilize your time, visit them, visit their offices, visit the individual person that is selling the land. Take the document from them. For example, when you're talking about an individual selling you land, there are things that you have to do before committing. Number 1, you need to understand if you're buying land from the real owner of that place, because you can go to Ministry of Land, you do the search, and the search is perfect, but there must be something else that you have to do. Number 1, you need to inquire from neighborhood or the neighbors if this guy is the genuine owner of that land. And of course, in Kenya, most places you find we have neighbors bordering the land. And in case you do not get the neighbor, the neighbors or the people who are there, you need to do land search. Land search can be perfect. You need to do, I think, number 3, which many people do not do. You need to search, to do official search documentation. For example, you need to search the ID, if that is a genuine ID number of that person. So you need to go to where the Kenya registration for persons, and make sure that you do identity card search. You'll be able to know the truth if that is a genuine person selling you land. And after you do that, another thing that you should do is to just make sure when you're doing the documentation, make sure you have proof that this land belongs to this person, because you have already done the search, you have already done the ID search. If it's a company, you have already done the company search, which will only cost you for about 650. An ID search will only cost you about 500,000, and you're able to get it maybe within a day or 2, which is not too much to ask from the seller. So if the seller is pushing you and telling you pay, land will go with somebody else, just know if you have not finalized your due diligence, don't fall for it. Make sure you're contented enough. You have the documentation, which you have to you do filing on your part, because land, as I always say, you need to have documentation. You need to have supporting document that you followed the good due diligence before acquiring it. Number 5, you need to evaluate what we call the documentation. Like now, the titles, the map, the mutations, the beacon on the place. So you need to engage a surveyor or somebody who has such a knowledge. If you are not able, for example, to interpret a map, you need to get get somebody who can be able to do that for you, because there are so many people who have been scammed. For example, being shown land touching on tarmac, yet the title deed which they have been given, you have been, for example, you have been able to do the due diligence of the land, and The search is perfect, the ID is perfect, everything is perfect. But you need to get somebody who can be able to locate for you, like the physical location of that title. Because many have been scammed in a way that you are being showed this parcel, yet that parcel is far away from where you're being shown. So that means wherever the specific parcel is, it cannot amount the same value as you're paying for. So you need to understand that it is very vital for you, before you buy land, to look for the maps and mutations before you engage. If the land doesn't have title, if it doesn't have the map work, if it doesn't have the mutation, if the map is not amended, that is a question mark you need to ask yourself. Why? No, number 6. After you peruse all that, that is where now you engage a lawyer. And when you get a lawyer, the lawyer should not just do the agreement. The lawyer should proceed and do due diligence on her own or his own. And one of the things that the lawyer will be able to do is to do a green card search, because a green card search will show the history of that land. If the land has been transacted a number of times, it is going to be showed on that green card. So a lawyer will be able to do that. Number 2, the lawyer will be able to do the validity of the seller's document. I had mentioned earlier. And also he'll be able to do the land search just to make sure that he confirms before doing an agreement. And after paying, now when you engage a lawyer, you'll be able to pay a deposit for the same land, because the seller is supposed to do what we call land board consent after you pay the deposit, of which the balance of the money should come after the land board consent. If in particular that you're dealing with a person that you do not know and you do not trust, because whether you know a person or you don't trust a person, there is a legal ways which you should use for you to be able to buy land genuinely. And that is why I'm saying that you need to make sure that you pay a deposit, and then make sure you attend land board for you to be able to get the land board consent for transfer. And why do you do that? Because in the land board, this is a committee which has been appointed by the government to be able to handle the land transaction in a certain area. And once you visit that place, there is always maybe land board seats maybe twice a month, or some areas once a month, depending on the transactions. And in most areas, because nowadays land transactions are so many, they sit maybe twice a month. And once they sit down, the seller will be interrogated. For example, just being asked, why are you selling this land? Where is your family? For example, if you're buying a family land, it is good for you to ensure that the children know, the wife know, and just do a background search and know if whoever is selling you land, if for example is a woman, if she is married, or if he's a man, if he is married, just make sure that the partners, they have the consent, or what we call spousal consent, and they need to sign. And even the children, sometimes they need to know, and you also need them to sign. For example, when you're buying land or a family land, what number one thing that we do, for example, if you're buying from a man who has people who are older, we ensure that the wives, they sign, and the children, they know, and everybody has consented the sale of that land. Why do we do that? Because we don't want today we put our money there, and then tomorrow we have a court case. Maybe one child has gone to court saying that he was not told, yet this is a family land. So that's something that you need to look. Number 7, you need to consider fencing your land. Immediately after you do the deposit, consider fencing. Why do you fence? because most of the people may think this is a waste of money, it's a waste of resources. Is because if the land is owned or is sold to somebody else who maybe has not finalized paying, so which means maybe the owner has custody of the title, they will come, because at the end of the day they'll know that the land is fenced. So you might as well know that the land has been sold before. So it is very vital for you to be able to, maybe if you don't have a mount fence, go and mark your land. Put maybe some posts, just do something there. You can even start doing, constructing a toilet or something, and that one will give you more information regarding that land. Because as I always say, it is better for you to lose 10% of the money instead of you losing 100%. Another thing that you need to consider when buying land, Kenya, we have two different of registration. Number one, we have freehold titles, and number two, we have leasehold titles. When you're buying land, you need to ask yourself, do I need a leasehold title? Because mostly leasehold titles, they are located mostly within towns, and most of them they are commercial. Of course, we have a bit of them which are not commercial; they are residential. So, and the advantages, both have advantages. For lease title, a foreigner can own a lease title land. You can be a foreigner in Kenya, maybe you are from Dubai, you are from UK, you are from the US. You can be able to own that parcel, and mostly they will register that lease for 99 years. And we have freehold titles, and most of freehold titles, they are residential and they are agricultural land. And once you have a freehold title, it's only that nowadays we are being charged the RAD rates on them, but previously the regimes they used not to consider charging RAD rate and land rent on freehold titles. So it is good if you are a Kenyan to buy a freehold title. Why? Because you don't have a lot of charges like RAD rent. You'll not be paying RAD rent, and RAD rates, most of the places you don't pay RAD rates. So, but if you want a commercial kind of a building, it is good for you to consider maybe buying a leasehold kind of a title. And we have so many other things that you need to keep on considering when buying land. And maybe I'll be mentioning a few as we go by. Let me finalize with maybe my 10th top point, which is topography. It is good for you to consider topography. Why do you consider topography? Topography is the way the land looks, because you can go, for example, to buy land today and it is on a sunny day, and you not know if the land do flood. So sometimes it's good to look at the vegetation which the land has. You can easily tell if a place always logs water. You can easily tell through the vegetation that you find there. So make sure you look at the topography. As you buy land, the water, a good land, it has to drain water without a lot of maybe bothering the ground and soil and all that. So at least a bit slanting land is better, or a flat land but with a bit of a gradient which is slanting for the flow of water. And make sure you do not buy a riparian land. What is a riparian land? It's a land touching on the river. If you have, just have a clear place where you can be able to set up. And bear in mind, one day it can rain and maybe your house will be in flood. So those are some of the basic things that you need to consider. Next time we are going to tell you more and more things to consider when buying land. Thank you for watching and listening. Remember, we are Kenmark Realtors, and this is the very few companies that you can really trust when buying land. And why do you need to trust Kenmark Realtors? Is because we only sell what we own, and we only sell what has a title deed. And before we sell to you, the land is already fenced, it has roads, it has accessibility, it has a lot of other benefits that you need to consider. God bless you.